First of all, welcome to our June meetup. I'm really happy that you showed up here. As Sebastian said, we're having a lot of people on the public holiday on an extended weekend, and in Europe, I can say it's not it's really great that you're joining, even if it's great weather outside, and hanging out with us and learning a little bit more about our GitHub today. So first of all, we're in this meeting today, but I already want to talk about the next one. We did a brief list of next meetups we're planning till the end of the year. I think there will be some changes, but the next one is fixed already. It is on the July the 25th, and we're having our amazing team from the product security there doing a little brief briefing how they improved the last 3 years, what they're doing in the back end, what we're not seeing when we're working with IGEL and thinking about product security. And I'm really happy that I could win Sven from Device Trust, giving us an update on their solution, where we're standing at the moment, which use cases they're working on. This will be very cool, and I will share the link tomorrow. So mark in your calendars, July 25th. Next point, I want to say big thank you to all the contributors. I see some here also in the attendance. Kolja, for example, shared a great story in the community. We had Joey van der Mark sharing a video. This is the community idea. It's not about me or Seb or anyone else. It's about a community. Everyone contributes something to the community. And I really want to thank you, because this is great outcome we can publish, and everyone in our community, but also outside of the community, people using IGEL, looking in Google, hey, what could be a solution there? They're finding your blog posts or videos. This is really great. Thank you. And if you need any help in producing a blog post or video, let me know. I'm happy to. Sebastian maybe can talk a little bit later about this, but we're in the back end also working together with some partners to bring them more actively in the community. I know Sebastian had talks with Wasion and Saab, and we're trying also to bring HP and Lenovo more active in our community. We're planning some ideas, some challenges there involving our community. So stay tuned out of this, and I think we can contribute, or our IGEL Ready partner can contribute a little more, and we're working on ideas at the moment to activate them more.
If you just want to stay there for a second, so just in case you didn't know it because you're new to the community or you're watching the recording afterwards, you're usually subscribing our community and getting our public channels, which are mainly for asking questions, getting an answer, or getting information about latest IGEL OS releases. But on the other hand, you have some hidden channels, which are starting with TP, with technology partner minus and the name of the company. So you have to search for them inside of your channel list. That's mainly due to one reason: we don't want to make any kind of advertisement and publicity. So just in case you want to subscribe them, just search for them in your channel list, and from there on you can subscribe the channel. So the goal on the midterm is to have every month a new member joining from them, but also sharing some news in that channel. So for the moment we have mostly RSS feeds, but we are trying to get new partners, but on the second hand, those who are there getting more active in that channel. So stay tuned on that. Rene and I are working together with the IGEL Ready team. That's it.
Absolutely. And as you see, a lot of content, and I talked about the content we're creating there. We want to keep our Slack, our IGEL community, a very technical place. We don't, maybe sometimes we share some marketing stuff, but mainly we want to keep the technical aspect in our community. What you're seeing there outside the community, LinkedIn, all the blog posts I'm doing, this is probably marketing. This is outside the community, but I want to differentiate it. In Slack, we have technical things out of Slack. We're using content created out of the community, but to give it to a broader audience. So this is at the moment I'm working on, and also matching with the next slide, because the next slide is or are the ideas I'm working on at the moment. Let me see. Here we are. So I shared this already in our I think inside channel. I'm working at the moment on a podcast format, and you probably know Centegra is doing also IGEL Weekly podcast. There's now competition between us. My idea is to pick some people from IGEL, pick some people from the community, and do an interview, and maybe get them know a little bit better. So what is your story? What are you doing with IGEL? Maybe you have another great story you want to share with the community to introduce a little bit more the people within the community, to also show you, maybe if you don't know someone, okay, this is a great guy, I can reach out when I have a problem around a special topic, I don't know. We will have back also our amazing Sarah soon, very soon. And what we're also working on is a newsletter where we share maybe every 2 weeks new knowledge base article, blog post, security updates. We plan this in the newsletter format, but also in a video format, so that we're having a bi-weekly release. You see also there what's new at IGEL. We did this in the past when there was an update, a firmware update or something new. We did a video with our PM team. So this is also an idea what we're doing at the moment. If there's something new, if there's an update, we want to create a video. This can be done by Sebastian, by Sarah, by me, together with the PM, also giving you the latest information. And then as we had the discussion last time, we're also working on a PM meetup together with you to give you the possibility to ask questions again. And last but not least, and I don't know if we're doing this additionally or if this maybe future-wise at some point is replacing our meetups. This is a little dream I have for a longer time. This is a monthly IGEL web show where we're doing live streaming to LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, I don't know, and where we're having exactly like this, having topics, but also having guests in the live show, and just chit-chatting. This is something very briefly, but you're seeing, okay, in the back end, I'm working already on some formats, and I think this will be pretty cool, and also gives you as community members the possibility to work together with me, because I need people to talk with. And so probably I will reach out to the one or the other to ask them if they want to join me for a podcast or as a guest in our live show. Or if you have a cool topic you want to present, reach out to me and we do a video, whatever it takes. I would be happy to get in touch with you and get to know you better. So this is what I'm working on at the moment, and really excited about this. That's mainly from my side. We had a talk already before, but Sebastian, welcome also to our meetup today, and maybe you want to share also some updates from your side.
Definitely. I mean, I like the term Godfather, especially if you think about my cat, but yeah, let's switch that term. Happy to be there. Happy to have Ron and Rene running that show today. I mean, you are seeing that we are changing also a little bit the way how we are presenting our community to the market, but also how our meetups will be organized. So for the first time since we started with the community, we have a more or less 12-year plan about topics and things we are trying to show you. So that doesn't mean that we have to stay on that, right? So if you have any questions, any ideas, anything that you want to change or you would like to add to that agenda, we can move it around. We can also have an exclusive meetup. We can also have a separate call with you guys. So it's nothing we have to keep. We are doing that for you. So we are usually not delivering our meetups just because we want to reach IGEL people or the IGEL folks out, but more because we want to cover your needs from the market. So please reach out to us. Just write us a direct message, write in community chit chat or whatever you like, and we are happy to jump in. So a big thank you for the first time now to Ron and Rene to run the show today. I will just cover a few things. You might know that the knowledge base is now under the IGEL community team, and we have a couple of things in front of us, but we know that the search function is one big piece that we have to cover in many ways. So just one thing I can already mention. We cleaned up the search function inside of the knowledge base. So just try it again, give it a try, test the search function, and you should get not 1,000 answers anymore, but just a couple of them. We're also working on how to search and increase the amount of filters you can set during a search as you would do it on Google, as you would do it on other part of search engine that you are trying to use. So we are working on that. We are also investigating in other directions, right? Because Ron did an amazing job on the MK docs based on GitHub. That's also a thing that we are thinking about. Hey, does it make sense to stay on Confluence, so the tool that we have at the moment, or can we switch to something else? We're also evaluating ServiceNow, because as you might know, if you already have opened a ticket on our end, you are using ServiceNow for our ticketing system. So let's see. I mean, a lot of things are happening behind the scene, but just saying what we have at the moment is already a bit better than what we had before, but we still have a huge road in front of us. So if you have any suggestions regarding the KB, just come back to me and I'm happy to help. So on another thing that I want to mention is the IGEL security notice. I know that we are pushing that at the moment in our KB, but since a couple of days now, you might see in the announcements that we're also sharing important IGEL security notices as well as important new KB articles. Just look at them. You don't have to answer to something, just consume them. And if you're concerned, you will get now a notification, which is way faster than before. Last thing, and then I will shut up, is the IGEL Fight Club and the strategy and focus day that we had a couple of weeks ago. We are getting a lot of feedback regarding Cosmos, OS 12, and US 12 at the moment. The feedback is mostly okay, but we have there are also a lot of things to achieve before having people running it in the productive environment. The only thing I can say is we listened, and the feedback that you gave us, that you shared with the community, but also with your pre-sales or event services folks, reached our product management and our dev guys. And I would say at least during the strategy and focus days, which is an event happening in Augsburg, where I would say 90% of our developers are, and 100%, let's say 99% of our product managers are, as well as our C-level partially. So the feedback reaches them, and we are working on ADP, we are working on things like enhancing the feature set of the UMS 12. We're also working on that funny thing, which is a proxy, not integrated proxy function inside of the UMS, web UMS. I know it takes a little bit of time, and I know it might be frustrating, but still give us a little bit of time. And I truly believe that Q3 and Q4 will be a kind of relaunch of all the Cosmos stuff. Rene and I are working on that, so please be prepared to get a lot of content to that moment, as well as in the knowledge base regarding the relaunch of the product. That's how I call it. That's it from my end. Just have fun. If you have questions, I guess Rene will mention it in a second, but please put that in the chat. And if someone is able to answer it, we will answer, or Ron will take over then afterwards.
Exactly. Thank you, Seb. And yeah, I really like to mention it. Your feedback is pure gold, and this is why I love also the community. And I can tell you, it's not only at PM and Dev; it's also at the highest level at IGEL. And this is only possible because you gave the feedback. And as Seb said, we're working on this hardly. And when you go to our event page on our IGEL community homepage, you see already some topics around how to migrate to Cosmos. We're planning at the moment meetups with also in Privata on some Cosmos topics combined. And we're having a lot in the pipeline we know that we need to work on and that we need to deliver. But yeah, we're on a good path. We have addressed things and they will come. All right. So long to this. As Seb said, we have our chat, we have our Q&A function. If you have any question, please let us know. And then I would hand over to our fantastic Ron Neher, Insider Community Member of the Year 2021. And I call him Godfather of IC GitHub. This is something in my old position I was not working with on a daily basis, but as you showed me, this is a brilliant tool we have there. He will show us what he's doing there at the moment. We will talk about customization, custom petition, app SDK, and I don't want to take too much air out of Ron Neher. Ron, please take over and show us what you got there.
All right. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly.
Thank you.
Good. Well, first thing is quick question. Post in the chat who's in the background picture. So don't say it out loud, but type it in the chat. Does anyone know who that cyclist is? It's not me.
So I will shut up.
Oh, well, we'll keep going here while I go ahead and share my screen. I can't believe I've got a bunch of people from Europe here, man. So I'm working on my summer tan line too. Yeah, I got that going for my bike stuff.
I know Pantani, Jan Ulrich, and Lance Armstrong, but I don't know.
Cannibal. He was a cannibal, right?
Yeah?
The godfather of the Tour de France. Let me go ahead and share I'm just going to share my desktop here. Cool. So let me know when you can see my screen.
It's there.
Okay, cool. So basically what I've got off here is the IGEL Community Docs page. So if we go to that, I also have a shortcut with tinyurl. So if I typed in tinyurl.com and just do IGEL-docs, it would go there as well. So a little shortcut. So if you're someplace and you don't remember what the link is, just have the tiny URL and then IGEL-docs. But basically off of this, we've got a lot of content up here to supplement the knowledge base or Lars UCC guide, etc. As we note here in the disclaimer, this is from the community related documentation. It's without any warranty or support by IGEL. So, and we've put that in the bottom of the page as well, that little disclaimer that's there. So this is a basic setup. You have easy search. You have the ability, like for Leon, to go into dark mode. You just flip that little switch there, and it'll take you into dark mode. As we were mentioning earlier about the OS 12, the Cosmos stuff. How I kind of look at the version that's out right now and think about deploying it is really around use cases. So say you have a use case where, hey, we're going to be refreshing or buying new systems to remote users. They're going to be doing AVD or Windows 365. That might be a great use case for doing the Cosmos, doing OS 12, so that when they buy the hardware from the vendor, it would come pre-installed with IGEL, open it up and type in their email address, and in less than 3 minutes, they're in AVD and working. That would be a great use case that you could start off today doing, right? That would work great in that environment. Some of the more complex workflows and things like that, maybe as Seb was mentioning, would take more time before you deploy out. But again, test and look at those different use cases. From the IGEL Community Docs, basically what we've got in here is stuff around how to Cosmos. So if we're figuring out things, or a lot of questions that have come into the community, I've just kind of picked up from here and put into this FAQ. So again, the IGEL Academy and this ICP education, if you haven't taken it, I recommend, even for myself, I don't like doing online classes, things. It's like it moves too slow. I don't care that IGEL is German for some animal or something. But this one here is great. It's right to the point, and it's even myself, I really enjoyed it. That 2 hours, and I actually learned a lot as well. So I recommend go to the IGEL community, IGEL Academy, take the ICP class, and go. And then off of this, we have stuff about the topology. If you're starting to do stuff with Cosmos or with 12, I recommend this FAQ. Read through it before you install your first UMS. You're going to see a lot of stuff that's captured here that your peers have come across. So we have stuff around time service. Make sure, of course, every device is running time services. Some stuff about the licensing fact, the UMS things, and then there's stuff in here for OS 12, etc. And then around ICG as well, and the onboarding service. So great stuff there. But really what I want to talk to today is around, adding applications to an environment. And so when I came over to IGEL like 3 years ago, there was this custom partition, and it was just kind of seemed like a what the right term, dark art or whatever, around doing this. And so when I did my first couple of custom partitions, I kind of messed things up, manually fiddling with things. So what I did was talking to Seb and Doug Brown about this in GitHub is like, hey, I think I can automate the builders and the builds of custom partitions, get that on GitHub and have some workflow there. So that's kind of how the whole GitHub kind of stuff that I got involved started around that. So if we go over to the IGEL community on GitHub, we have content up here for the custom partitions, scripts, my docs. There's PS IGEL, the PowerShell stuff for IGEL for our APIs is there as well. If we go into the custom partitions area up here, I've got some videos, talking about how you build a custom partition and add that to the environment. So that flow is kind of basically there. And then inside of CP source, then we basically have the basic builders and content around that. And so then, and it's kind of structured here. So like if we go to unified communications, for example, and let's just go into Zoom. So basically what I've done now with these custom partitions is that I've started adding logic to some of them to do OS 12 as well. So basically, if for example, right now, what we have is OS 11 is again, IGEL OS is IGEL's own version of Linux, but we use libraries from Ubuntu. So currently in OS 11, it's based on 1804 Ubuntu libraries called that releases Bionic. And then OS 12 currently has Ubuntu 2004 libraries. As you may have heard, later this year that we'll be updating the libraries to 2204. So when that happens, I'll have some work to do here, potentially on these builders. But right now, if you fire up an Ubuntu 1804 system and run the builder, it'll spit out an OS 11 Zoom package. And if you did it on 2004, it would spit out an OS 12 package. And so that's kind of the flow. If we look at the build script here, what I have in the top part of this is kind of talk about what the package is and then what missing libraries. So in this case, for Zoom, it's the same name of the library. And then the logic just looks at this as, hey, if it's 1804 or 2004, it goes off and builds a package. When we get to 2204, when that comes out, I'm going to change this logic and just basically say, hey, instead of calling it OS 11, I'm just going to put it, hey, if you build on 1804, it's going to spit out a custom partition that would work on systems that use 1804 libraries, which in our case would just be OS 11. If you do it on 2004, it would be a 2004 package and spit that out. And then when 2204, I'll add the logic here and it'll just say 2204. So if you're running IGEL OS 11 or 12 and it's using 2204, it would essentially be the same package, right? So that's kind of my thought around that. Again, I want to kind of keep this interactive. If there's any questions, just interrupt me.
So by the way, you have the ability to unmute yourself every time, right? So you're not only allowed to write, but you can also speak if you want to.
Cool. So what I've done here on this in the documentation, how to add applications, what I've documented here is I actually have some profiles here. And so, for example, if you wanted to test VLC, for example, the media player, or Zoom or WebEx, you could just click on this link, download it, import it into your UMS, and it would just point to my file server. So if you wanted to do a quick test with LibreOffice or Frame or something, you could just get this and it would pull the latest version of those apps. So you could do some initial testing. of course, don't wire that up to production and expect my little file server to be able to serve your enterprise. But anyway, that's there. Currently, as you may know, with OS 12, we don't have the ability to export or import profiles. You know, it's done in the web app right now. A newer version of the UMS will allow it. But what I've done here is kind of built a table to say, hey, if you're going to create a profile for a custom partition for OS 12 for Chrome, here's the size and here's the values that you would add to that profile to get it to go. So have that table there, have our general disclaimer around, you know, using custom partitions. If you did something with a custom partition, you had an issue, you know, usually most of you go to the IGEL community on Slack and ask a question, we try to help. But if you opened a ticket with IGEL support around a custom partition, support would just be able to, you know, basically say, hey, can you set it up? Can you download the INF and the tarbz2 file, right? And then it's just kind of like, well, that's as far as support will take it. You can kind of think about that as if you bought some Photoshop, right? And you tried to install it on your Windows PC and you had an issue. Contacting Microsoft, they probably wouldn't, you know, help you in supporting Photoshop, right? So it's a similar situation here with the IGEL. So, and then in the app portal is that with OS 12 now, as you know, everything is an app, even the OS. And so from the app portal, then you can install apps from that and go. The SDK, so right now it's open just to our IGEL Ready partners. So Frame or whomever, right, would use our SDK, package their app, submit it to us, and then it would go up into the app portal. Once that becomes available for customers or a private one, if that comes, then we'll update around this as well. I already, with my GitHub stuff, already have the ability to basically generate with the SDK. What it is a bunch of JSON files and then your tarbz2 or whatever wrapped around it. So I basically have already gotten the code that I can spit out the JSON files for the SDK to automate that. So, but until it's public, you won't see anything up there or be able to do anything with it. The next section I have here is just around, testing with OS 12. If you want to just do some basic testing right out of the box, you could take OS 12, install it into a VirtualBox session or onto your PC device, and just go ahead and get a 90-day eval. And then once you've got that set up, you can actually then just hit the app portal right from your OS 12 device. Don't need a UMS, and you could the application, download them, and go. The other thing I document here is the command line for this as well. So there's the IGEL package control command line, and with that you can list what packages are available off the app portal. You can also, if you add installed after this, you could say what installed packages are on your device. So Seb, I'm really thinking when someone's got a question around OS 12 and saying, hey, I'm doing something with OS 12, this doesn't work. The first question, we always ask is, what version of the firmware are you running, right? So now with the packages and different things, we would really need you to kind of, do something, for example, like the IGEL package control list installed to show us what's installed on there. So if I flip over to an OS 12 device here, so I've got an OS 12 device here, and I've opened a terminal window. And if I just go IGEL PKG control, and if I just say help, this is the options, install, uninstall, update, reload, list, whatever. So in this case, I could do this, and I can say list installed, and then you can see, okay, what do I have installed on this system? I've got AVD, I've got my base system, which is the current one. I've got Chromium, I got Conky, the cups printing, my Citrix, and this one's still kind of coming, but you can see eventually this will go onto the public one, but there's the Teams PWA. So you could actually just, install that package and be able to run the progressive web app Teams, right from that. If I say list, for example, here, it's just going to go off and it's going to list everything. And this is just on our internal site, but you can see right now AVD is at this version. You can see the base. I'm at this version, Chromium, but so that's basically everything that's out there, and then you can go from there. So that's kind of the gist around that package control command. And then with your test system, if you remember in OS 11, if you wanted to remove that 90-day license and reset the device, you had to mount, the license folder, remove the licenses, reset to defaults, and reboot. In OS 12, there's a new command called delete IGEL licenses, and if I put all on it, it would do it. So on OS 12, I would just delete all licenses, reset to defaults, and reboot. So if you're on a device and you open your browser, you could just click on this to copy it and then just paste it right on the device, and it would do what it needs to do. I have a little sandbox UMS if you wanted to kind of test. If you're having issues with yours, you could try to hit this one and try to connect in, make sure that goes. But really now let's get into the custom partition builders. And I just want to kind of show you some of the logic around the builder and try to show you where the magic happens here. So basically, as I mentioned before, and maybe you could post in the chat or something if you've ever used any of these custom partitions before or not, just so we can see who's used them before. But anyway, with this, you can build out your Ubuntu VM, and then you can go ahead and get the builder script and then and run it, and then it would go ahead and package everything up into a zip file if it's one of the newer builders, and then you can take that and upload it into your UMS and into your file services. So as I note here, as of the 16th of May, IGEL 11 is based on 1804 and 12 is based on 2004. And to check the OS version of your device, you can open a terminal window and just cat etc os-release and just hit return or grep for version ID, and you would see that ID version. One of the things for debugging custom partitions, if something's not installing or something doesn't look right, you can open a terminal window, run general control, and just grep -i. And the -i means ignore case, and just put custom in there, and it would just list out everything in the journal control log that has custom in it. So a quick way to look at that. What I want to do now is look at the VLC media player build script. And these links here would take you right to that in GitHub. But in the build script, what I'm kind of showing here is on lines 2 and 3, I have this set -x and this trap read debug. So basically, if you're having an issue with the builder or whatever, you can uncomment those 2 lines and essentially a single step through the build and just see each step as it's going and seeing if there's an issue. So maybe in the build of your VM or something, there's something else going on, or the package manager is locked or something like that. But anyway, you can do that to single step. And then line 7 through 19 is kind of the variables that I have in the script. So I'm calling the custom partition VLC, where it's located. And then I have these clean items here. And you're like, what is clean? What does this mean? So basically VLC, if we look here at its dependencies and these missing libraries, you can see this just like goes on for a very long time, all the libraries that VLC is dependent on. Well, instead of, you see it goes a long way. So instead of me having to figure out which version of IGEL OS you want to build for, and are those libraries already included in the OS, all I'm doing here is blindly grabbing everything and putting it in. And then I have a little clean thing that runs that says, hey, if I'm on 1107 100 or 1201 100 for my build, I have a list of all of the libraries in user lib and user share that are on that version of the OS. And what it does is it just prunes out any libraries that are already in there. So instead of having to figure out which libraries are in there and not step on something, this little clean thing will go and do that clean. So the rest of the stuff then is, I've got the missing libs. It just rips through. It downloads all of the libraries. It extracts all of the libraries. And then here's that piece of code I was talking about to clean. So basically, it just goes in and figures out if those libraries are already on the system, remove them from the custom partition. So it's a simple way of just cleaning and knowing you're good. So if you're going to run and build this for a certain version, you could change that version number to 1108, 230, or 330, or whatever, and it would clean, based on that. So that's the basic gist that it does for a build script. And building it, the other key piece that we have is the init script. So basically, most applications expect that they're tied into the operating system, and so what this init script does is, in a custom partition, you have this initial action and then final action. And the initial action would run this script with init, and basically what it's doing on lines like 27 through 36 is it's linking the custom partition into the IGEL file system. So it looks like it's all part of the file system. It gets some basic persistency set up and goes. So that's kind of the init, what the init script does and does that. So the other piece I want to talk about real quick is in the automation. So say you're using a custom partition, like you're using Zoom as a custom partition. Well, Zoom's going to release a new version, pretty frequently. So if you have some build, I have some build automation up on GitHub. So let me open this link. So basically, if you're using custom partitions, you could set up an Ubuntu system that would just wake up and check and see if there's a newer version of Zoom, for example, or whatever applications you're using, and then just go and run and build it. So you can automate that build, and then you just put that into your test release plan to test that new version, make sure everything looks good. Then you can move it into production. But here's a little script that you can run that you can grab and do that with. So anyway, so that's kind of the stuff on build automation that you can do with that as well. And I think that's really all I've got. I want to just kind of open it up for general questions.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ron. This is really amazing. And as I said, the GitHub and all the information you are sharing there and documenting there, this is really fantastic. So as you showed there, and I know I'm still 9.5 years with IGEL now, and customization was always a topic. Okay, people could customize it. And when we talk about app SDK future-wise, do you think it will be possible also for IGEL users to contribute their own applications? Will it be similar from the difficulty like customization, or what do you think about that? Do you have
with the SDK or just with custom partition?
Yeah, customization against app SDK. What do you think? What would you say?
Well, we're dependent right now on the SDK is just really for IGEL development and our IGEL Ready partners, right? So once they come out and say, hey, the SDK is available for there's a private area and the SDK is available, then my plan is to have a GitHub area with a builder script around that would build all the JSON files and stuff like that as part of it. For others to contribute, yeah, I mean, usually I get some things here from others that have done things and get it to me, and then I get it up on GitHub, or they clone the GitHub custom partition area, do their own, and then do a pull request. Then I can look at it, and we can collaborate, make some tweaks, and then I can publish it into the GitHub as well. So for example, if we go to, and that's what I do with Frame. So before we had the SDK and stuff like that, Frame, I worked on the first pass of it with them. And then after that, then they basically do, see, where's Frame? They basically just go in and do pull requests back to me for this, and then I just update it, review it, approve it, and then update it into here. So this Frame app that's here is joint between us and Frame. So yeah, so we have that ability as well. The other thing that you can do with the GitHub is if you see an issue. So if you see an issue on a package or something like that, you could just go to issues and just say new issue and say, I'm having your build script or something is having some issue with, this or that, right? Put that in there, then I can see it, make the changes and fix it. So really with GitHub, the other thing I have is I have it tied in with the IGEL community on Slack. So basically you can add GitHub to Slack and then you can follow the stuff in there. And then as I'm making changes or anyone's making changes in GitHub, you can see it in the IGEL community on Slack. So you can see the other day, Seb said, hey, update the disclaimer, at the bottom of the page. So then that's, what I did or whatever. So a ton of, changes in there. But anyway, you can see that. So you can add GitHub to the IGEL community on Slack and just see changes as they're occurring. So like with this disclaimer, to add this item in here, basically all I needed to do was in my, on the side, I wanted to clean up some stuff here. And then the other document that I edited to make that change was just in the MKDocs YAML. And if I let me hide that, if I show history, you can see then, hey, when I did this update to this disclaimer, you can see what I changed, right, in there. So a simple thing in there, cool documentation as code, but really that's what I've done there. And then in this IGEL community docs, this is all just running MKDocs with the material theme. And I also have just let's see over here. What I wanted to show was, let me go. Sorry. In my how-to docs down here, I had some stuff just around, the tools used for this site. So I actually just documented what I did to create this environment here. So basically that I just used GitHub for the files. I used Mermaid to do my markdown documents, MKDocs with the material theme. So basically to set all of this up was create a GitHub site, go ahead and add that MKDocs YAML file, and then there's automation. So when I check something in, it just runs the MKDocs and regens the docs. So it's basically just a couple of files, and you can have all your documentation looking this nice. And so very simple, easy to set up. Back to you guys.
Awesome. So maybe if someone's saying, I want to contribute, not only asking questions, but maybe you want to write something, what is the best way to contribute? Is it reach out to you and you will maybe do an introduction, or what would be the way? Or how
yeah, I mean, if you wanted to change something in the docs, I mean, you could just, reach out to me on the IGEL community with what you wanted updated or changed. If you know GitHub, you could go in there and you'll make the changes and just do a pull request back to me, and I can review it and add it in, and it's just done. So if you want to, do that as well. So there's options. You can just, clone this area, this mkdocs02 area. You could go into the documents. For example, all the editing I do, I just use Visual Studio Code. And actually, I have a custom partition for Visual Studio Code. You could do all of this on your IGEL endpoint as well. But basically, you could go into the Visual Studio Code, and you can see what I'm doing right now is like in the release notes. If I had a typo or something in the release notes, you could make the change, do a pull request back, and then I could go ahead and take care of that. So that's kind of the gist around that. So within Visual Studio Code, you edit the text document, but you can see it and have a preview as you're doing it. So for example, if you've ever seen the release notes, if I go back over here, let's see here, to release notes, you can see, hey, I've, this diagram that's built out here and the version. So if I click on this and open it in a new tab, it would just have the release notes for 11.08.360, right? Release notes are there. So you can see that. And then from the builds, then I actually have, what changed, what was in 11.08.360, right? What was done. So there was a lot of stuff that was done here. But basically, if I go back to the source, you can see, hey, I'm getting ready. We have a new private build 277 that just came out. So I'm editing the doc right now to update it. But basically, it's Mermaid for the markdown to generate what I need here. And then the other document that I made the change on was just around the release notes for 277. So it's going to have the AVD change in it or whatever. But anyway, that's kind of the stuff to do with that. And then once those documents are done, you have the ability then to, use the Visual Studio Code to send it back up to GitHub. So that's kind of that flow there. Back to you.
And after we talked about search function in the knowledge base, you showed me that GitHub has a fantastic search function. And as we have a lot of information there, this is also a pretty cool place to look for solutions. As you mentioned, we have a disclaimer. Those information coming mostly out of the community. You are also referencing to the KB oftentimes. But this is a really good place to search also, additionally to the KB, to get ideas how to solve solutions. And again, big thank you for creating this gigantic document portfolio, GitHub. As we have 8.5 minutes left, I would stop to talk, and maybe our audience has some question to you. So I would give it to the audience. If there's some question, now is the chance to talk with Ron.
Don't be shy. Did anyone guess who? Oh, we already said who the cyclist is, right? Did someone post? Oh, Eddie. Okay, Bruno's got it in there. Yeah, Eddie. Yes. So we have the tour starting up here pretty soon. So
that's great. So I would say we're seeing that it's very hot in EMEA and hopefully also in the US. Here we're having great weather. We're soon becoming summer, or we're having summer already here. And Ron, I want to say big thank you. I will give it to Seb. Do we have something more we want to highlight?
Not to highlight. There was a question from Milan, just in case someone is listening. So I made a joke in the chat because we had discussion already a couple of times. So the question was, can you show real free disk space of your IGEL OS converter device? So the short answer is no, and never. But the long answer is yeah, there is a plan for that. It's still in backlog, to be honest. So I don't have any ATA. But it's not part of that command list. So it will be there maybe in Q4 to have at least the ability to check the free amount of disk space available for the extension of the operating system or for the app that you want to use, but it's not part of IGEL OS 11, unfortunately, for the moment.
So yeah, so basically what's happening with these file systems, they're encrypted, they're compressed, all of this stuff, right? So it's just hard to kind of figure out. Usually what I do is when I get a new version of the IGEL OS, there's two things I do. The first thing I do is I grab, like that automation I was talking about, to find what libraries are in this version of IGEL OS and user lib and user share. So I run a little script that gets those, and then the next thing I do is I create a custom partition, because we know that the basic size that it creates is around 16 gig, right, for the OS. And then, so if 11.08.360 came out, I set that up, and then I just create a custom partition of like 10 gig, and then I try to make it a little bit bigger. And I go 10, 11, 12, and when it breaks, and I go back and I say, okay, the biggest custom partition I can create on 11.08.360 is 11.5 gig or whatever it is, right? And I just put that in my notes and I move on, right? So.
All right.
So I guess, Rene, you will share the recording afterwards, right?
I will upload it tomorrow to YouTube. I will share the content. As mentioned, the next meetup will be with product security team, device trust. We're working at the moment with Improbata on the one after this, and hopefully we can share after this. I see also Randall is here. Meetup with advanced services, how to migrate to OS 12 when we are ready, when we have our product ready. Then I'm really positive that we are after the summer break. And yeah, I want to say again, thank you to everyone. If you have any question, reach out to us in the community. You heard Ron is doing great job with GitHub. Reach out to him if you have any ideas, any question. Happy to help there. And I want to wish you a very sunny and very warm end of the day or beginning of the day for you in America or in other parts of the world. And see you next time, or see you in the community.
All right. Bye-bye, all. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.